Shut up and sit down.
Welcome to the Health and Wealth Podcast with your hosts, Tim and Carter.
What's trending, Enrichers? Carter Wilcoxon, founder of CSI Financial Group here, with my co-host and former wealth advisor, Tim James, founder of
ChemicalFreeBody.com and your new health advisor. This is the show where we reveal the connection between physical and financial abundance.
Hey, welcome back, Enrichers. Carter Wilcoxon, coming to you as normal from actually very pleasant Phoenix, Arizona. It's very unusual for us to be below triple digits this time of year, and for an extended period of time. I'm thinking we might have actually gotten out of all the heat, but it is not unusual in Phoenix, Arizona. If any of you Enrichers have been here before, for it to be triple digits into the middle of October. So this is, unbelievable blessing for us out here in Phoenix. But as is normal, I am joined by my spectacular, fantastic, amazing co-host, Mr. Chemical Free Body himself, Tim James. Tim James, how are you, my man?
I am doing great, Carter. I'm excited to have our guest here today, Lisa. And we've had some interesting weather here too. We're starting to get some rain again, which is nice. But it was like 80 degrees yesterday with a little bit of rain at the end, and enjoying that. As we're talking, my cat is strolling through the field, so I have a good view. He's funny. I meowed at him a couple times like another cat. I can make cat sounds and all kinds of stuff, and he started meowing and started spraying all over the place. I think he's marking his territory, so I think he thinks I'm another adversary or something. I don't know.
Oh, that's fine. Well,
we'll see.
You've never talked about a cat before. Is the cat new? Is it a farm cat? What's going on?
Well, he's turned into it. He was at a friend's house. Well, yeah, I was at a friend's house, and they had moved into this new home up in the woods. And when they got there, they kind of inherited this cat that was outside eating grasshoppers, trying to stay alive. And he was kind of cool. He'd follow you around like a dog. Like go for walks, he'd go with you. And then one time we're in the woods though, right? And so he's running through this little open field, and there's this one little 2-3 inch tree in the middle of grass, and he like ran into it with his head and was like, and as he was running, and when I looked at him, his eyes were kind of cross-eyed, and I was like, maybe he's got a little, something going on there. Maybe he's not that smart. But he was kind of flighty, right? Mm-hmm. Obviously he's out in the wild. But you get him in the house or whatever, and he turned into this little love bug. He'd let you pet his belly and love on you. But they didn't like him because the kids and their dog and everything would scare him, and he would just climb all over their house, up their cupboards, and go crazy and knock stuff down because he would get frightened. So they were going to get rid of him, and so I basically rescued him because he was going to go to a shelter or something. Probably be like, they probably would have said, this cat's got brain damage or something because his eyes were kind of cross-eyed. So, but he's doing well here. I brought him here. My mom didn't want him here on the farm, and I brought him, and my dad fell in love with him. I love him, and he gets mice like crazy. And I just saw another black cat with 2 young cats, so I think he might be a dad.
Who knows? Well,
got his own. He relocated and started a new family.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, hey, Enrichers, that is our Animal Planet segment, if you will. We're very excited about having our guest today, and we're going to go ahead and bring in Lisa Malick of Lighthouse Financial, I believe, is the company, right, that you represent. So, Lisa, thank you so much for joining us today.
Oh, well, thank you for having me.
So, Lisa, as is, the normal protocol here on the Health and Wealth Podcast show. And again, Enrichers, thank you so much for joining us for another episode of the Health and Wealth Podcast show. The normal, process and protocol that we have is, you've got a story, right? You most financial advisors, it's not like one of those things I'm going to grow up and be a nurse or a doctor or a firefighter, right? You become a financial advisor somehow. So please share and enlighten with us and our audience on, what was it that kind of initially brought you into having a heart for wanting to help people? And I let me go ahead and mention one thing also, and maybe you'll talk a little bit about this in the second segment, but you're a Kingdom financial advisor. And so I think I want to learn more about that in the second segment also. But anyway, let's talk a little bit about how your path started.
Sure. Well, like so many people in this industry, I did not start out thinking I would get into financial advising or even into the financial industry in any way. I started out as a researcher in a physical oceanography lab doing work in ocean optics. And when I used to tell people that, I remember at one point I had somebody look at me and stop for a minute and go, does that mean you like fit glasses onto dolphins or what is that? So of course, whenever I say ocean optics, I always envision in my mind a dolphin with little spectacles, but no, it was more about the physics of light and all that. But even back then, I always felt like it wasn't quite the best fit for me. I liked science. I was interested in science, but I didn't like doing science. I didn't like the politics. I didn't like the grant writing. I didn't like the feeling that I really wasn't doing anything that immediately felt like I was doing good. And then apropos of this podcast, I had both a health and a wealth event in my life that led me to this career. And how that happened was after my first daughter was born in my 20s, my husband was diagnosed with cancer. And he lost that battle after, 5-year fight. So that left me with suddenly now, having to figure things out. We'd never had a heck of a lot of money. And certainly after 5 years of fighting cancer, we had even less. But of course, there was a life insurance policy. It wasn't astounding money or anything, but it was enough that I felt like I need to figure out what to do with this and use it wisely. And I also need to figure out my cash flow now that I'm a single mom, and I need to learn about all this stuff because I don't want to make mistakes. That led me to go to a couple of different places. Somebody sent me to one of the big wirehouses where they had their money, and I paid, money for a financial plan. They spit out this boilerplate thing from some software that meant absolutely nothing to me, didn't help me at all, and offered to manage my finances for 3%, which, that I didn't know anything. That did not sound like a good deal to me. And I started,
Were you in Brooklyn or something? Or?
No, I was in Florida.
Okay.
But anyway, I mean, even back then I could tell that this just doesn't sound good. So eventually I remarried. We had 2 more children. And at that point I left the lab and decided to stay home with my babies. And in the meantime, I figured I could figure out what I want to do with the next phase of my life. So I started looking at different options, and I just really wanted to do something that felt more immediate, more helpful, more like give me purpose. Thought about things like counseling, but honestly just felt too squishy to me, not analytical enough. Then one of my husband's friends suggested looking into becoming a financial advisor. And the more I looked into it, the more it just felt like the perfect mix for me. The analytical, I get to play with spreadsheets and do those things that I like. But I also get to sit down and really feel like I'm doing some good for people, and I'm helping them and making good decisions. And so while I was still home with the kids, I just started the CFP program online at Boston University. And so I kind of did it backwards. Most people get a job first and then work on the credentials. But I just decided I'm just going to do this. I'm going to jump in. I was about halfway through when 2008, 2009 hit.
Oh.
And I thought, oh my gosh, what am I getting myself into? But
so hold on, let me pause you there. So here you are, you've already dealt with adversity on a personal level, right? Yeah. Now you're in a transition, looking to be more impactful and have more purpose and meaning and everything. And how can you help people? Because that's just your makeup, obviously, right? And then you're studying to get your CFP, but you're not working for anybody yet.
Right.
You're just studying, and then the Great Recession hit.
Yes.
All right, go from there.
So, and I was going to the FPA meetings, attending the conferences and things, just to start meeting people and build a network. And oh my gosh, the room was just, you could just feel the dread and the depression, but I still persisted. And on a personal level, our own finances took a hit because my husband's company, everybody took a pay cut so that they didn't have to do layoffs. And I said, I think it's time for me to start looking for a job, despite the fact that I'm not completely finished with the program. And, so you start out interviewing with the big wirehouses. And again, it felt too salesy to me and not enough like I'd be really building relationships. They really weren't even that interested in the fact that I was working on my CFP. So I finally realized I need to find a smaller boutique type firm where they actually do planning and build relationships and have long-term interest in their clients. And of course, there weren't many businesses advertising for entry-level financial planners at that point, especially in the wake of 2008, 2009. So I just created a cover letter saying, gee, here are the ways you could leverage me and free up your time, and wrote as convincing a cover letter as I could, and just started walking into offices and asking to talk to somebody. And when I walked into Lighthouse Financial, the first one to greet me was the owner's dog, Patches. And immediately I thought, oh, I really want to work here, and I did. The owner, she took a chance on me and mentored me. And now, 15 years later, I am the senior advisor here. She has retired, and I've taken on the vast majority of the clients.
Wow. That's absolutely. Now, this was in Florida. Did I understand that right?
Well, by then we had moved to Colorado.
Okay. All right. So that transition. So, work through, connect the dots a little bit more between all the things that you had to, all the adversity you had to deal with, the tragic events that happened to, your husband, and he passes away. You're not sure what you're going to do. You decide you're going to start the CFP program when you're in Florida, or now you've moved to Denver?
I started it in Florida after my son was born, and we moved to Colorado in the interim. And mostly we moved because my husband loves the mountains. He loves Colorado, and he finally talked me into it. So we thought it was a great time to move, since I was in transition. He worked remotely. He could work anywhere. It was a whole lot of changes in a very short amount of time.
Yeah, I can imagine. So now you have, are you up to 3 kids during that move? Or
yes.
Okay. All right. But the two of you met in Florida.
We did.
Okay. All right. Well, one of the things, and this is very normal, most of the advisors that come on here, right, their significant other is one of the most important pieces of the equation of them being successful. Share a little bit about what type of support that you got, from your husband, obviously on the emotional side of the thing. But what about the support of you being a female advisor? It's a man's world, and the female in the advisory space predominantly, right? So talk a little bit about how that dynamic worked and what type of support you got from him and how critically important that was for you.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And, he's always been very, very supportive. And, I know so many women who complain about their husband not doing, only helping with the housework. No, I think my husband probably does as much or more than I do at times. He's a little more compulsive about cleanliness anyway, so it helps. The other part of it, though, was he was still working East Coast hours here in Colorado. So he was done work at 3 p.m. just about the time the kids were getting off the bus. So that worked out really well for us. And he's always been, just as integral to the workings of family life as I am. So it makes a big difference.
Nice. Awesome. Well, I know beyond a shadow of a doubt, I mean, the support that I have, from my wife as well, it's, I don't know what I would have done. I mean, I can honestly say I wouldn't be where I'm at today had it not be right. Having that, that individual, that person, like in the foxhole with you, that's there. And financial advisory in the early stages, right? That's very challenging. Talk a lot about some of those challenges that that you saw yourself, even though you had a mentor.
Right. I mean, just passing that CFP exam is plenty of a challenge in itself. It's a 2-day exam. I think now it's even they've even extended the requirements, and but just getting through the coursework and the exam while you're working and raising children and building a household and all that. Also just learning the ropes of the industry, having come from, having a scientific background, the whole regulatory environment was just kind of overwhelming. And thankfully, I didn't really have to be the point person on any of that as an employee rather than an owner. I had the distinct advantage of really being able to focus. I could worry about being about the business of being an advisor versus the business of running an advisory. So for me, that was a really big advantage. Obviously I don't get the advantage of owning the company, but for me, it made life so much more doable than trying to, do the entrepreneur thing and start up my own business and all that. I have no patience for, compliance and HR and all those kinds of things anyway. So I get to do what I'm best at.
Nice. Awesome. So you've got 3 kids total. And then, what is what's it like as far as, trying to juggle between being a financial advisor, helping all your clients, while at the same time, being a mom and a wife? What's that like? And, how do your kids, function? Because you've got one previously from your husband that predeceased, right?
Yes.
So how is that dynamic in the house and juggling all those balls in the air at once?
Oh yeah. Well, and that was another great reason for going with a small firm where we grow organically by referrals. It's not acquire, sell. It is, it's a much slower pace than say, the eat what you kill kind of mentality at some other places. So for me, that was great. It was a really pleasant work environment where our employers, really did value work-life balance, flexibility. So the fact that, my husband was able to manage a certain amount of after-school care and the flexibility that I had. And of course, our oldest, she was almost a decade older than the others. So we had a built-in babysitter. Not that she was very happy about that, but
Yeah, that's just part of the deal.
Exactly. So now they're all much older. So
yeah, if you're rent free, you get this. These are the chores you get to do.
That's right.
That's pretty much my whole life growing up.
Sister babysitting?
Well, no, just like doing work. And now I value it. I'm really glad that I had to do that. So that instills a work ethic in you. It's just like, I was just talking to a coaching client today, and she had some issues with her dad in the past. And I noticed there was like 2 guitars, 2 saxophones behind her. Even though her and her dad had some issues, her dad was a musician, and that is in her life now. So that work ethic, all that stuff is good stuff. So anyway, well, Lisa, thanks for sharing your background. So what we'll do now is we'll take a quick break, guys. When we get back, we're going to get into what she's doing on the daily to help her clients keep their money safe and grow it into a financial explosion of joy and synchronicity later on in life. We'll be right back.
Estate planning. What does that even mean? When the inevitable happens for everyone on this planet, your estate plan kicks into action. But first, let's start with what an estate is. An estate is simply everything you own. Now, here's the issue and what needs to be understood when this event occurs. You only have 2 choices on this plan. Number 1, either you plan how your estate gets handed out and distributed to those you leave behind. Or number 2, your state decides who gets everything you own. For the first time ever, you can now take complete and total control of this plan that you've been deprived of for most of your life and generations before you. You can get personalized assistance along the way with a team of specialists whose job it is to make sure you have true peace of mind. It's important to understand that estate planning is a journey, and rest assured that our team will be available to you all along the way and at every step. Welcome to eState Plan, home of the last estate plan you'll ever need. To learn more, make sure to reach out to your local advisor licensed with us or go to our website for more information.
What's up, Enrichers? Tim James here. I'm back with my co-host Carter Wilcoxon. Today in the house, we've got Lisa Malick.
Yes.
Yay! We're so glad that you're here. Certified financial planner out of Colorado, and she got talked into moving into the mountains, and now she's helping people grow their financial assets into mountains of money. So, Lisa, tell us all about that. I guess, what's the thing that you think that's like kind of your niche and that like separates you from the competition in the Colorado area?
Yeah. Well, we're definitely comprehensive. We, our former owner, she used to say we know more about our clients than some of their mothers do. Because we sit down, we have, the kind of meetings where we're not just pushing a piece of paper across the table saying, oh, here's your performance for this quarter, you're making money, or no, we sit down, we talk about their whole financial lives, and we ask them about transitions in their lives, because I think any transition you can think of in your life pretty much involves money, whether it's having a baby, the death of a loved one, moving, you name it, and it somehow involves money. So really getting to know clients is really important, and maintaining education and experience, and knowing what the clients want out of their money. That's probably the most important thing. I think most advisors go in assuming that everybody wants the same thing. They want to, retire at 62 and play golf and go on trips. And that's not really the case for everybody. Some people want a life of, they want to start a new business when they retire. Some people just want to putter around in their garden and donate a lot of money to charity, and other people want to cruise the world. So it's really important to understand what people want their money to do for them, and also to manage expectations, but also just to manage fears too. We have a lot of clients who have plenty of resources. If it was a football game, they've won the game, but they are so afraid to start spending their money. They've spent all their lives accumulating, working hard, stashing it away. And it's really, really hard to get them to flip the script and realize that now it's okay to start using it to do the things that you've always wanted to do.
Well, that's actually interesting. So let's drill down a little bit more on your the demographic in which that you're working in, that you're talking about. Is there an age range that is a typical type of a client?
Most of our clients are pre-retirees or early retirees. Not exclusively, though. I have a couple clients in their 90s. I have a couple clients in their 30s. I even have one client who's a recent grad from the Air Force Academy. So, so the range is huge, but I'd say the vast majority of them fit within as, pre-retirees or recent post-retirees. And, but for me, I have a special passion for women who find themselves single later in life, and, whether it be divorce or widowhood, who, for many of them, especially in the older age group, their husbands were the financial spouse. They were the ones that handled everything. And they really do feel adrift when they find themselves on their own and really need somebody who can come alongside them and speak English and make them feel comfortable to come out and talk about the things they don't understand and really admit that, where they need help, not be made to feel stupid because they didn't know this or that, and just to really help them make the best out of what might be a not so great situation.
Yeah, well, so I'm really curious because we talked about it in the first segment, and the thing I took away from that first segment, and what I really wanted to talk about with you now, is because you had a personal life experience where, had there not been life insurance there, how much more devastated that probably would have been. Can you talk a little bit about how that's part of your makeup and some of the things that maybe you incorporate as you're, doing some of the planning with your clients?
Oh yeah. Whenever we do planning, that certainly is a big concern. Is what if the spouse is not here anymore? What's going to happen? What we run scenarios? What if Joe dies tomorrow, what is this going to look like, and what do we need to do to make sure you're okay? And same thing with if Sally goes tomorrow, will Joe be okay? Same thing. And I think it's a gift to both of them, especially to the person who we're looking at potentially, killing off. They know that they are leaving behind the other spouse in a better situation because we've had this discussion. For the most part, we certainly have those people who just don't want to go there, don't want to address it, don't want to think about it.
I would just, in my mind, I'm sitting here thinking to myself, you've got this personal experience though. Like it seems like it would be for you, right, wrong, or indifferent, an easier conversation because of that personal experience with you. I'd imagine that that's conveyed in those meetings that you have. And I'm not necessarily saying the first meeting, but, eventually
right.
I'm sure that you're sharing that story and why it was so impactful and meaningful for you.
Yeah. As appropriate, for sure. It's a good, brings it to reality for some people. But again, there are people who just don't want to think about that. They don't want to go there. Honestly, my late husband was that way. He did not want to talk about it. Thankfully we already had the life insurance, I see that a lot. I see a lot of people who just really don't want to have that discussion, and it's a job. It really is a challenge to bring that out.
Yeah. So you'd mentioned comprehensive. Obviously, Lighthouse is a comprehensive, organization. So, do you wear a couple of hats? Are you CFP as well as? Talk a little bit about the different type of licenses that you need in order to do some of this comprehensive planning.
Right. We, up until last year, we were under the hybrid model under a broker dealer. We were both fee and commission based. And this past summer, we went completely fee only. And we just feel very strongly that that's where the industry is headed. We really like the fact there are absolutely no conflicts of interest in that respect, because no matter what we recommend, we're going to get paid the same. So before that, I had Series 7, the 63, the 65, the life insurance, the long-term care, all that stuff. Now, really, a lot of those are no longer required for what I do. So, of course, there's the thought of what am I going to do about those, but they may just end up lapsing. And that's okay. Because I really like the model that we have now. And, a lot of people have resisted that because, of course, so many things like insurance and annuities were always commission-based in the past. And now they see the writing on the wall. And a lot of these offerings are also creating fee-based options. So we can still offer annuities and insurance and all that. And anything we can't, we will outsource, because we are just committed to making sure that people have what they need. For instance, we no longer do long-term care, but I've worked with a gentleman for the last 15 or so years, who is a specialist, and we readily refer people out to him. And even if it means they take some money out of the investments they have with us to pay for their long-term care, that is just, it's what they need. It's what we're gonna recommend.
Yeah, that's. I think that you're exactly right. I know a lot of. Well, I was just having a conversation yesterday about how we're sort of like in a subscription-based world right now, right?
Yeah.
Only subscription-based. I mean, it's all kind of very similar. That way, you don't feel like you have to be juggling a bunch of different things, and if you can still provide comprehensiveness. Now, you're not doing charity work, right? You still have to be able to put food on the table, but if you can be able to encompass everything that you want to do, knowing that they're going to get the same type of value, you're still able to make a nice living given the type of advice that you're giving. I call it being in the knowledge for profit business, right? That's really what you're in, and you're providing that level of service. But for you, it sounds like it made it almost easier for you to be able to do all the things you're doing, not wondering about how you're going to juggle being a fiduciary, suitability, and commissions and things like that. So I do remember when we had our initial vetting conversation about learning about our podcast, that was something that you guys had just implemented just recently.
Yes, just last summer. So it's been just under a year that we've made this move. So we're still feeling our way in some respects.
So just out of curiosity, did the clientele have to change with that as well? They had to be brought up to speed on that internal transition. How did some of that work?
Yes. And that's always a challenge because that clients rarely read those emails that you send out in bulk. So, it takes explaining and re-explaining and explaining again. And our industry is so complicated and there's so many layers to it, and just explaining what is a broker dealer, what is an RIA, and how does that all work do they own us? What does that mean? Who are they? What do they do? It's definitely an educational process and a lot of patience with just explaining and re-explaining and explaining again.
So I'm very interested, and in Richard's, thank you again for joining us for this other episode. We're on with Lisa Malick from Lighthouse Financial in Colorado. Talk a little bit about which came first, the certified Kingdom Advisor or Lighthouse? How did that whole thing go?
Lighthouse, the whole Kingdom Advisor thing is that is really another certification similar to the CFP. It is with an organization called Kingdom Advisors, and it was started by a man named Ron Blue, and really an organization of Christian financial professionals who believe in really imparting basic biblical wisdom in what they do. And if you really look at it, it is wisdom that transcends belief, time, culture, gender, everything. It is good wisdom, whether you're a believer or not a believer. It's things like, spend less than you make, really basic stuff that I think anybody would agree with. Give generously, save for the future, don't be a slave to the lender, all those things, very, very basic, common sense, just good financial wisdom. However, it's based in, really digging into what the Bible says about money, which is a topic that's discussed probably more than almost anything else. It's also about encouraging believers who are your clients to take part in more generosity, to really encourage them to put their wealth to work in the kingdom. Obviously, this is something that you have to tread carefully. You're not going to be proselytizing to people who are not believers. It's nothing like that. It is just trying to provide really good wisdom to everybody we work with, but in particular with people who are believers or who have a strong sense of passion about something, to really encourage them to look at, using some of those resources to further those good causes.
Yeah. So Lighthouse, well, you were already with Lighthouse.
Mm-hmm.
Then the designation came into focus after you had already at Lighthouse.
Right. It's a program of study and it's membership in that community.
Right.
So it's not another source of employment or anything like that.
It's just a designation that has these biblical principles as a foundational approach.
Yes. And in the last 10 years, they've actually expanded to offer this designation at quite a number of universities throughout the country.
Mm.
So it's really gaining some, mainstream momentum.
Nice. Awesome. So now that you are completely fee-based and everything, and you mentioned referral pretty much only, there was this transition. How has that been going as far as like growing the business and growing the AUM and the fees and everything?
Right. Well, considering the downturn last year as well, and we did have, you always have a few clients when you make a transition that just don't want to transition with you. And so, that's left us some room to grow, and we're certainly looking to take on more clients right now. But as far as just the transition itself, I think it's been nothing but positive on net.
I'm kind of curious so this is decades ago, but I come from the server industry, right? And there are, and I'm just trying to tie in this analogy, and I'm just curious here there are some restaurants that, and I was this way, right? Like eat what you kill, right? I made as much money from all of my own effort. We didn't tip for anything like that. But then you have certain other restaurants where everybody helps one another out, and it's a big tip pool, and everybody kind of. So I'm just curious from that analogous perspective. Where does Lighthouse fall with the fee structure?
Oh yeah, we are totally assets under management fee, and we do charge an additional fee for planning. When they first come on board, we charge a planning fee because it is a really large commitment of work and time for that. So we charge an upfront fee for the plan, a stated amount of money, and then we do charge assets under management for anything that we manage.
Okay, but that's on an individual basis, right? I mean, is it a collaborative effort within the office? From all the comprehensiveness things that you do, and everybody gets a piece of that, or I'm just curious. Like you have clients, or is everybody each other's clients?
Everybody is a Lighthouse client.
Okay.
I do not. Nobody owns a client. I am. We all have the clients that we service, of course, that are exclusively, the ones that we take care of. But if we were unavailable and somebody had an emergency, then any one of us could, step in and help them out. We do meeting notes so that everybody's up on everybody. Everybody knows what's going on with all the clients at Lighthouse. And so it's sort of like almost like a doctor's office where, you may have a certain number of doctors in the practice. Most patients go to a particular doctor, but should the need arise, they can see anybody.
Nice. So Tim, that's kind of changed since back in your day whenever you were in the industry, but this is kind of becoming, commonplace from a lot of our guests that have come on.
Well, I think it's because of the just where everything's going, this assets under management, rather than having 100 advisors all doing different plans and manage the money differently, and then they don't know what's going on. It's the mastermind principle where everybody can put that together and chip in and come up with strategies that are going to work better for the collective.
Yes, everybody used to be a silo, and now now we are a team, and it's really useful because for instance, our new owner Shannon, she has lots of experience with small businesses, and she's our guru for people who have questions about their small business. Whereas I have more experience in the planning side. And so we all have our little niches where we can help each other out. But collaboration.
Well, that's awesome.
Yeah.
All right. Well, it's time to take another break. So when we get back, we'll ask Lisa, or actually, she's going to ask us the questions. That's what we're going to do. We'll be right back.
You want the absolute best for yourself, and you want it to be easy. That's why we created Green 85. It helps with detoxifying the body gently. We're proud it's chemical-free, unlike almost all other supplements you'll find. Bottom line, Green 85 will get you healthier. We look forward to hearing what Green 85 did for you.
To get this product and our other amazing products, go to chemicalfreebody.com. That's chemicalfreebody.com.
What's up, Enrichers? Tim James here. I'm back with my co-host Carter Wilcoxon, and Lisa. This is the time where we get to flip the script, and you get to ask me any question on health. So, did you have a certain question for your health, a family member's, general question, public health, whatever it may be? Go ahead.
Okay, sure. This is more just asking your take on something. I'm a big believer that negative emotions are a strong trigger for health events and really have a big impact on a person's health. And, from my own experience, from just observing other people after going through, we all know the person who went through a nasty divorce and then ended up with cancer, or the person who, was facing a lot of stress and developed some ailment. We know of, and then there are the people that are just negative people who hold on to things, and, they're unforgiving and they're negative, and they have a lot of negativity in their lives. And I wonder, I'm sure you have some opinion about, that effect on a person's health, and where would you place that in importance on somebody's health?
Well, I'm really actually glad that you brought this up. This is the first time it's ever been asked on this show, which is very exciting to me.
Yeah.
Because I love new questions. But it's not something new over here in our camp. We talk about this all the time. I coach people on it. I've already coached 2 people today, and we've talked about this. So when you're looking at the human body, there is a physical component to it, right? And there's things you can see and that you can't see when it comes to health. One of them, and then there's also the non-physical. So we'll get into that in a moment. So the physical stuff would be the air you breathe, the water you drink, the food you eat, the things that come into contact with you, maybe grounding. Now, this is one of the things that you can't see, where actually if we got and touched the ground, we're instantly being enveloped in a negative type of, and not in a bad thing, like negative energy, but it's a good energy, a beneficial energy that grounds us, okay, and reduces inflammation and gives us life and vitality. Also, the rays of the sun, like those photons raining down from the sun. You might not be able to see that light as it hits and penetrates and warms you in the UV rays, but it's there. And it's that we are actually light beings. We are, if you boil it down to the atom and what's in between that and smaller, it's like all we are is energy, right? Now, you're talking about emotions and how they can affect us negatively. Well, the reality is that emotions come from a couple different places. Number one, they can come from our mind and what we think of something. So we could think of something like good or bad. Like you might hear you're in the hospital and they might say, oh, she's got this and she's going to die in 2 weeks. And if you think they're talking about you, you are going to freak out. Or like when you found out when your husband had cancer, right? Or it's fear, right? So when that happens, when you have these thoughts, as an example, that fear, that emotion will then translate in through your body, and chemicals actually get produced in your body. And those chemicals can either be beneficial to your life and your life expectancy, your quality of your life, or they can be detrimental. So the emotion literally will translate into physical reality as far as chemicals, dopamine, cortisol, adrenaline, your heart beating. So it can actually make you freak out, but it can also calm you. And then maybe you talk to you over the doctor and like, hey, I just overheard you guys talking. You said I was going to be dead in a couple weeks. Oh, no, we're talking about that lady over there. Oh, you're going to be fine. Oh, God. Okay. Whew. And then all of a sudden you feel good. You feel these good emotions. You feel warm and fuzzy. Well, what changed? Nothing. It was what you were thinking. So what you think can literally heal yourself of disease or manifest disease. Literally. And the same thing goes to the mind of the body. The cell every cell in your body, and the collective there's a mind to your body. So you have the physical mind up here in the brain, and then you have the body that has its own brain. And this is where a lot of emotion and traumas are stored. And it could have been from molestation, or you got beat up as a kid, or a death when you were a child, or maybe a death when you were an adult. Or maybe you and a really good close friend became estranged. You guys just couldn't talk to each other forever. Something happened. So these traumas like literally get stored. I actually had a gal today that was actually strangled by a loved one that actually had cancer, spread to his brain. And this was a nice man his whole life. And then it kind of like the cancer got in his brain, and he would have these manic episodes, and he tried to strangle her with a rope, and she lived. And this is a person that she loved at one point in time, right? So it was no bad issue on his part, but the reality is that could cause some stored emotions right in those cells, and she could be holding on to that, which could then manifest disease. So I can tell you emphatically, after working with hundreds and hundreds of folks, and actually being at institutes where people have had breakthroughs, and myself, that when somebody comes to like an institute to detox and heal and do all that stuff, they think a lot of times they're going to get there and they're going to like clean up their gut or clean up their cells and put a bunch of good food in them and have a shot of wheatgrass, and they're going to feel good, maybe some massage and some therapies. But that is all done to get to one goal, which is to raise the vibrational frequency and raise the energy in the body, so that these stored emotions and this crap that you have, this belief systems you have in your head, can get out of your body, basically. And when this happens, we've talked about this before, Carter, a couple of times, where 3-4 days into these programs, you're getting a massage, and all of a sudden you start crying uncontrollably for an hour to 2 hours, like nonstop, as these emotions are coming up out of the tissues, literally out of the cellular body, out of the tissue, and are translating into an emotional release, because those emotions were stored. So it's like detoxing, 6 pounds of garbage out of your digestive tract. It's the same thing. It's just garbage stored in the cells, emotional garbage, and you release that. And that's where the true healing begins. So what you hit on is something, at least that I think is very important. It's one of the goals that I have for all the clients that I work with, is that they can open up their heart, and we can help them get these emotions out so they can deal with them. And sometimes they know about them, and sometimes they don't. And sometimes they've forgotten about them or suppressed them. So it's a big deal. It's a big topic. I think it's very necessary, and it should be talked about. And if you're going to somebody to help you with your health, and they don't talk to you about what air you breathe, the water you drink, the food you eat, and your emotions, and then they hand you synthetics, then you're dealing with it. You have a drug dealer. You don't really have somebody helping you with your health.
Agreed.
Yeah. Good question. Do you have any other questions about health?
What do you think of red infrared light therapy? I recently bought a red infrared light, and
a far infrared or a red light therapy?
Far infrared red. I've been using it for, just
what brand is it?
Getting old creaky joints and those types of things. It's Red Rush.
Okay, I'm not familiar with that brand. I love far infrared. Far infrared is the vibrational frequency of water in nature, and your body's made a lot of that. So it's great for rejuvenation. It's great for detoxification. It's great for beautiful skin. It's great for sleeping better. It's great for relaxing the nervous system. It's great for increasing the core temperature of the body, knocking out any like viruses that might be taken off. And like if you get a flu or something, or if you're around somebody with the flu or you feel like you're getting it, you should get in that sauna a lot. And just because what a sauna is doing is it's artificially raising your core temperature. Once you get into the swing of flu, your body is raising your core temperature to knock back that virus, right? So there's a little bit of a battle going on there. So you can preemptive do that. It's also great for pushing heavy metals out of the body and other toxins. It's fantastic. I can't say enough about them. Only thing I would say is that that they're not all made the same. For me, when I'm choosing a far infrared sauna, number one, I used to look for number one, there was no EMFs. That was number one, no electromagnetic frequency. Had to be very low, very, 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 very low. Number two, panels had to be in proper position for maximum detoxification, which sometimes, quite often, these companies, they don't do it for whatever reason. I don't know why. Number three, there's no glues or nothing for off gassing in the woods. And so, is yours wooden?
Oh, I just bought a panel, so it's a half body panel. So
oh, sweet. Okay.
I can move it to just the
right. Yeah, so you get the benefits of it. Okay, cool. Yeah, and so it's really about raising core temperature. So I've been a dealer of far infrared saunas for over a decade now, and about 2 years ago, I switched from a certain brand to what are called relax saunas. I love them because they actually broke a natural law, and it's not a panel. They actually have processors. So they developed through spiritual practice. They downloaded these processors, they built them. They got it to work like 20 years ago, and I think it's one of the most, like, it's getting out there now because the guy that was promoting it was like literally like a one-man band going around and talking to docs and slowly doing these things. And 6 months ago, he had an HTML site. I don't know if you know what that means, but old school website until about 6 months ago. But they have, the technology is unsurpassed. So they were able to, I'll give you an example. Like in a good wooden box sauna, you can raise your core temperature, and that's the key, not the ambient temperature around you. It's about what the far infrared does to the inside of you, your core. It's about raising core temperature. You can raise core temperature in a good sauna 1 degree to 1.5 degrees. I'm not sure what that panel is for you, but I do know that when you get next to it, you're probably going to feel better. It can help with depression and that kind of stuff. It's great for the winter months that are coming upon us. It's detoxification, all the stuff I talked about, right? But this sauna can raise the core temperature 3.2 degrees. The ones I'm talking about, and they're very inexpensive. You can get one for like $1,400, and they're quite awesome. So I'm really glad that you had one. I used mine for years, and about 7 years I had one, and then I switched over when I found this newer technology. But
Nice.
yeah, so if you ever think you want to get check another one out, we have them on our website at chemicalfreebody.com. It's under Tim's favorites, and you'll see the saunas. And Carter can speak to it very easily because I yelled at him for a year to get one, then he finally did it.
Well, one of the greatest benefits for me, Lisa, is that I get to get these questions from advisors, and I just get to learn all these things. And Tim's obviously a wealth of health information, right? And I remember when he first learned about this sauna, I was like, well, that sounds kind of interesting. But in my mind, I hear sauna, and I'm thinking, where am I going to put a sauna? Because you just think about this big wooden box or whatever. I'm like, I don't even know what you're talking. And then he like showed it to me. I'm like, wait a second, what? And how much does it cost? Wait, what? My wife and I, we literally do the sauna, 4 to 6 days a week, right? And there's like, somewhere between, there's like an optimal amount of time that we get in it, somewhere between like 12 to 22 minutes, right in that window. But he does it every day, or 4 to 6 days a week. I do it 4 to 6 days a week, and it's like a cheat for me, right? I get to go in there. I get to just like do nothing. I'm disconnected from technologies and everything, and I just sit in there in it, and I just kind of just almost like zone out. I work on my breathing techniques that Tim's taught me or other guests that have been on the show. But yeah, I'm a huge fan of it, and I'm glad that he turned me on to it. So kudos to you that you went that route as well.
Yeah. Far infrared, awesome. I don't really hardly take on one-on-one coaching students anymore. But when I do, it's mandatory that they get one of those saunas. Otherwise, I won't tell them I don't want to work. If you have to get on our products and on that sauna, because I know that those two things alone are going to do so much heavy lifting for me. And it's just going to make everything better. I can't say enough about far infrared saunas it's a very passive way for somebody to change, because all they have to do is get in and turn it on, sit down.
Yeah.
And then they feel good. I mean, they actually feel great when they're done. And they're like, what? It's so awesome. Then they go back over and over again, and they start, it's just one of those things. Now they're starting to take care of themselves and show the universe that they love themselves, and the universe reflects that back to them. So it's really awesome.
Well, it's an added bonus. You have to spend that time without your phone. Isn't that a wonderful break where you're like, oh, gee, I can't look at my phone right now.
Yeah, you're deplugged there.
Yeah.
Tech pass.
Plug on purpose, and that's kind of the thing, right? I mean, if you're going to do it, if you're only going to do, it's only 12 to 20 minutes, right? You're just like, you can be without your phone for 12 to 20 minutes.
Yes, absolutely.
I laugh when I'm at the gym, and a gym opened up, and it's like 3 minutes from our house, so I had no excuse. I usually work out at home, but I finally joined, and I just have to laugh at the people that, I mean, even during their little break between their sets, got to be staring at the phone, like you should probably just be really focusing on what's going on here and what's happening with your body. But
yeah, that's because a lot of people have become addicted to their phones.
Oh my gosh.
And I'm sure Tim can talk about that as well, about unplugging. I mean, one of the things I know that talk about the phone, right? Talk about like some of these, biohacking that Tim talks about a lot. We were doing this already before, and I've heard him talk to many a guest about, how sleep is just so critically important. And our phones are in a completely different room whenever they charge at night, so they're nowhere near us. That was one of the hacks that I learned before, but Tim encourages anybody who's looking to get better sleep, don't have your phone anywhere near you. The blue light. I don't know if you want to talk a little bit about blue light or whatever, Tim, but I know that was, for me, it was a great biohack to help enhance my sleep pattern.
Well, I mean, it's just kind of simple in nature. When the sun goes down, it's dark, right? And so when that starts happening, you start producing melatonin. If there's light, your body still thinks it's daylight. So it doesn't produce melatonin. You can't really get into your sleep cycle. So it's just A plus B equals C, it's simple. It's just that easy. So that's why we want to avoid lights as we go to bed. And that's why I always tell people, like, during the day, you want to have natural lighting, not fluorescent lighting, but natural lighting, full spectrum or wide spectrum, to mimic the sun's light in your home. Yes, it's different. But then at night, like by the bed, you want to have really soft lights, like that yellowy type light, and just kind of start bringing things down. So that's all I got to say about that. Lisa, you're awesome. Thanks for being a guest here today. I really appreciate you. We really appreciate you coming on and sharing with the Enrichers your story, and I'll let Carter wrap it up.
Yeah, Lisa, seriously, thank you so much. Hey, Enrichers, thank you also for joining us for another fantastic episode of our podcast today, and to be able to see all of our previous wonderful guests like Lisa Malick from Lighthouse Financial. You can go to our website at www.thehealthandwealthpodcastshow.com and make sure to like, share, and subscribe wherever you get your podcast. Apple, Spotify, Podbean, whatever that may be. So for my fantastic co-host, Mr. Chemical Free Body himself, I'm Carter Wilcoxon, CEO and founder of CSI Financial Group. Wishing you all a wonderful day. Lisa Malick, thank you so much for joining us today and for sharing your story. We really, really do appreciate you coming on today.
Oh, it was my pleasure. Thank you, Carter. Thank you, Tim. And had a lot of fun.
Awesome. So until next time, Enrichers, we will see you on the Health and Wealth Podcast. Thank you, everybody. Hey, Enrichers. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Health and Wealth Podcast. I'm your host, Carter Wilcoxon.
And I'm your host, Tim James. And by God, we are committed to helping you guys have fat wallets, flat bellies. So tune in again for another episode, and make sure to like, share, and drink a lot of water.
Or beer.
You have just listened to the Health and Wealth Podcast with Carter and Tim.